Hey, folks, welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock. I am afraid to tell you that the Mad Metal Man couldn't be here tonight, but we have some other special guests in his stead. But first off, I just want to address there's a favorite cast member on this show that everybody loves, and that is Gimli the Cat. Gimli the Cat is in the theme song intro that you just saw. He is the companion to my good friend Rob Daniels, who I've known for about 40 years. Rob lost Gimli the Cat this week, and I'm heartbroken for Rob. You know, Gimli has been a cornerstone of every single appearance that Rob has made, upstaging him by climbing over his body and trying to distract the viewer while Rob is waxing eloquent about such and such a soundtrack. So, Rob, my deepest condolences for your loss. It has been a crappy week. Let's face it, folks. It has been a crappy week. And in light of that, we are going to be talking about Ozzy Osbourne tonight. And with me tonight are my friends and special guests. Here they are, all the way from sunny Australia, Mr. Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Awesome. And also from your neck of the woods, we have Ash Geisler from Ash's Concerts and Videos.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
You're rocking the Sabbath too? Awesome. And finally, last but certainly not least, and here for a limited time only, we have Jake, not from State Farm. And Jake, you haven't met these two gents before, have you? Not face to face.
I have not, but it is an honor to meet Peter, Kerr, and Ash finally.
Hey, Jake.
Hi.
So the plan originally this week, as suggested by Ashley, is we were going to start going through our new musical arrivals, stuff new to the collection. So we had Peter and Harrison on board for that. But unfortunately, the news hit us on Tuesday. That was the 22nd. And I saw Mitch Lafon, rock journalist from Montreal, posted it. And I was like, oh my God. And I started sending messages to people saying, we lost Ozzy. And then it started to sink in. And I guess maybe that's just where I'll start is what were you guys doing when you read the news of Ozzy's passing? We'll start with Peter.
Literally, I woke up, iPad always next to me, and I saw the message from Davey Cretan, one of our friends to the channel, saying, oh, you guys are asleep and you haven't heard the news. And there was a bit of a shock. Because, 3 weeks ago, I was all, saw the concert, subscribed to it, enjoyed it. I recorded a show with the Parish of Rock focusing on 2 Ozzy albums. And then 2 weeks later, he's gone. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shock. But, yeah, look, being in Australia, all these messages on the iPad from people in the Northern Hemisphere just saying he's gone.
And I'm sad to say I was the one who had to tell Davey Cretan.
All right,
Ash, you're virtually in the same time zone as Peter, so I guess you woke up to the news as well.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. It was, and I haven't got an iPad. I've got everything on my phone, on my Android phone, and I have it on silent over night time. But the light kept coming on and then going off, kept going on and off, and I come back and I got about 18 messages telling me, yeah, exactly the same thing. And it's like, wow. I was in shock as well. And it was a great show, actually, despite his health conditions, that the concert he just done. I actually enjoyed it. I really did. I watched it online. And, bit of a shock to me as well. Unfortunately, some person you think is going to be around forever, just like Keith Richards, but it wasn't to be.
It wasn't to be. And Jake, how about you? You're in my hemisphere.
Yeah. I'm a vampire. I sleep during the day and I'm up at night. It was around 2 o'clock. My first alarm, it was my day off. It was my first alarm was set for 2:30. My next one was 3 o'clock. But my dog decided that she wanted to start waking me up early. And so she climbed up on my chest and I rolled over, grabbed my phone. And my buddy Troy had messaged me, hey, Troy from Harper Cigar Lounge. And he says, hey, did you hear the news? And unlike you guys, I was not in shock. The first thing I thought was Ozzy passed away. I sent him a message back. I was like, did Ozzy pass away? And before he could get back to me, I got on Facebook and I was like, oh, well, God bless him. Good for him. He finally passed away. Now, this sounds morbid. I'm sure you're like, God, what a cold prick here. Sorry about my language. I work in healthcare. Since I was 18 years old, I have spent my time working mostly in memory care, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and the end road. These are all we lump in memory care up here. And at the end of the hospice, these things, you see these symptoms and watch Ozzy's public struggle. For me, it was like, okay, I know how this story plays out. He starts having all these health problems, and I'm like, he's living on limited time here. This is not going to end well. I was surprised he made it through last year. I know that sounds callous to those who don't work in healthcare. I said he's not going to make it through to the end of this year. And again, I know that sounds terribly calloused, but I have spent years working with people with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. I've given my knees, my back, my hips, I don't know if you can see this, fingers all jacked up. That's from, working with dementia patients. I've sacrificed parts of it's a cause I'm very, very passionate about. I know these types of conditions intimately. It's tragic. Yes, we are mourning him, but he no longer suffers. He's no longer in pain. This is my standpoint, and I'm not telling anyone that they have to feel this way. This was just, I felt a sense of relief, and I was like, God bless Ozzy. Thank you for everything you've given to us over the years. Godspeed, man.
Well, you and I did talk about this a little bit behind the scenes, and you mentioned that you don't normally, if you're a Parkinson's patient in that stage of the disease, you don't normally get on an airplane and fly. And that's very, very hard on the body. So I have a couple of thoughts about this, which is, they knew, as you said, Ozzy was unlimited time, but he wanted desperately to do this. He lived for the stage. When he retired at any point in his career, he always said how bored he was. He loved performing for the fans. He sincerely adored them and absorbed all that adoration back. So he went the way he wanted to go. It's probably the gig itself and all the hubbub that happened around the gig that maybe hastened his death. But I don't want to speculate. My main point is I'm really glad that Ozzy got to do that gig before he passed. That to me is the important thing. I've already mentioned how I heard about it from Mitch LaFon, but poor Harrison, he woke up to a message from me that just said, "Shows is canceled. We're doing Ozzy instead." And that's how, and he's like, "What?" So he had, that was negligent on my part. I didn't tell Harrison. I just said, "We're changing the theme. It's Ozzy." And he was like, okay. But anyway, he couldn't be here tonight, but I'm glad you gentlemen could be. I figure we'll just kind of go in rounds, talk about Ozzy, show off some Ozzy stuff. I have a lot of Ozzy stuff to show. So if you guys want to drop off at the end before I'm done, that's fine. I'll just keep going until I'm done showing off all my Ozzy stuff and telling my Ozzy stories. But why don't we start with Peter? Did you have anything that was on your mind that you wanted to say particularly tonight about you and Ozzy?
Yeah, look, there's probably a lot, and I'll just do it in bite sizes when we go around the grounds. I don't think anything sort of, can't replicate the thrill of hearing Paranoid for the first time as a young kid. The thrill of that song, and that was the introduction to Sabbath for me. It's a song that was it was heavy. It had this really sort of down-tuned guitar, but at the same time, it had a punkish garage rock quality about it. And hearing that song for the first time, I don't think anyone can replicate that thrill. I mean, the hairs on the back of your neck. And you had this really unusual vocalist called Ozzy Osbourne. There is nobody that sounds like Ozzy Osbourne. And Richie Blackmore did a really interesting post, and he said, I admired Ozzy Osbourne, his vocals, because he never screamed. He was very melodic and he followed the melody, and he's spot on. You had a lot of operatic heavy metal hard rock singers like your Ronnie James Dios, your Bruce Dickinsons, your Rob Halford, but Ozzy never went into that. A lot of naysayers may say because he didn't have the vocal range, but he had a unique vocal quality. And I did a show with the Contrarians, and it was how much blues is in Black Sabbath? Very controversial episode. Internet went into meltdown, and I was on the side of there is blues in Black Sabbath. Martin Popoff said that there was next to nothing. And my argument was that I think the blues in Black Sabbath is Ozzy's vocals, because his vocal delivery is so unusual. The melody would be going in that direction, and his vocal lines would be going up like that. And it was kind of like a blues scat singer, He's riffing. It's kind of jazzy. There's nobody that sounds like Ozzy Osbourne, and that's my first take on today. Like his voice, it's totally unique all the way through his career. Very melodic, never was a real screamer, but even Bob Daisley, when I interviewed him, said that he tipped his hat. He said, Ozzy, what he brought to the table, everyone around him, you'd have Randy creating the guitar lines and Bob would be doing the lyrics, but Ozzy would come in with these really tasty, melodic vocal lines. And I think that's really unique in the world of heavy metal. And one more thing, when you think of heavy metal, you've got to think of Ozzy Osbourne. If you went to somebody in the street and say, okay, bit of pop trivia, name me one person that personifies heavy metal, that have to say Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, spot on. Spot on. And for those who don't know, Peter interviewed not only Bob Daisley, but also keyboardist John Sinclair. So you can check those out on Rock Daydream Nation. By all means, head over there after this show and check out his interview with Bob Daisley. Ash Geisler, now you are in the middle of some house renos, so you don't have all your records and CDs on hand, but I can help you out if you need some props, I think, and maybe some of the other guys have some props nearby. Do you have anything you wanted to say right off the bat?
Yeah, sure. I've got some props here, guys, but not a great deal. Not a great deal. I can only get out what I can manage to do. But I sort of agree with Peter in a way that early Sabbath, when they started, they did have a lot of blues in them. They were doing blues covers even before they got a record deal. And that's how they started, because the heavy blues period in the late 60s in the UK was very popular. Yeah, bands like Edgar Broughton and John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. And that sort of developed into a bit of hard rock. Even Led Zeppelin, for a certain degree, had a lot of blues in them as well. And my introductory to Sabbath was again hearing Paranoid for the first time, but I didn't hear it for quite a while. And I probably got into Sabbath probably in the early 80s. And I went to a shop one day, and we used to get in Australia, we used to get like little commercials with best of albums on a cheap budget label. And the first Sabbath album I bought this one. It's called The Best, the Ultimate in Heavy Metal.
I've never seen that.
I don't own anymore. It was one of those cheap compilations. It was only about $5 or $6 back in the day. But I got it secondhand, and I only paid, $3. So I was sort of, money was a bit tight when I was in my early teens. And I picked it up and I played it for the first time, and I thought, wow, what a band. It had all their hits on there, like Sabbath, Sabracadabra and Supernaut and NIB, all the classic Sabbath songs you can grab. And that was probably my introduction to Sabbath there. And then from there, my catalogue expanded. I sort of went back into the catalogue, into the Sabbath catalogue a lot. And then probably my first two Ozzy Osbourne albums I heard first up was Blizzard and Diary of a Madman. And you could buy the record as a 2-for-1. Epic used to have the 2-for-1, used to re-release some albums and have them as a 2-for-1. You could buy one. I think Cheap Trick got what Don on as well, and Blue is the Cult, just to rattle off a couple. Yes. I have it on 8-track. So
you have it on 8-track?
Yes, I do. Wow. Right there.
Here, hang on. We're going to zoom in on Ash because he's got the far more interesting prop. That's cool. Right on. Can you show us the label on the
It's on the jet.
Oh, nice. Okay, so this one it doesn't have any tracks that are split between tracks. If you look carefully there, most 8-track tapes, you'll find they'll have like Diary of a Madman Part 1 and then Diary of a Madman Part 2, for example, on 2 different tracks. And that was because they had to maximize the length of the tape and all that other stuff. But that's cool, Ash. I think we have our first real serious treasure tonight. These are the two. These are the 2 CD remasters. We have the one that they re-recorded the bass and drums on in 2002, and then the proper reissue of Blizzard on CD. And there we go. Okay. Oh, look at that.
Mine is missing the cross. I'm not sure where it went, but.
And I picked it up as a bargain. Ashley will remember that. Remember that chain of music stores called HMV?
Yes.
There was HMV in Sydney, and it was in the bargain bin for $150. And I thought, I've got to get that. Because I think originally it was going for about $300, top dollar. Yeah, and it would have been sitting there all by itself, and I'll have that.
So that's the first 2 albums,
How
the remastered editions.
Did it go for originally in Australia?
About $300.
Half price.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but
unbelievable.
I think I paid $110 for mine. I mean, this is USD, I know, but I'm just like,
it's beautifully packaged. Sorry,
no.
You know, it's you got all. It's sort of like photos and
then the posters.
Beautiful.
I'm always very awkward when I do this show and tell. Mike, you should come to Australia and do it for me while I'm doing it.
That's fine. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll come this winter when it's summer down there.
And I still have
I love when stickers are kept.
And
now
it's sort of like you've got the album, and then it's got the CDs in it like that.
Wow.
With some bonus material. This is fumbling. There you go again.
Nice.
And you also have the record as well.
So you get CD and vinyl in one sleeve, basically.
And the originals, guys, Daisley and Kerr, not that ridiculous. And I like this little bit here. It's sort of
that's what I'm missing.
I was listening to the 2002 version of Tonight from Diary. And Bob Daisley on the original does this beautiful bass line. Boom, 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 boom. And it's buried on the 2002 version. It's completely buried. But I do want to address Henry Wright here. Blue Suede Shoes. You can get Blue Suede Shoes officially on the black box. It's on a DVD inside the black box. Now, what is the black box? It's remastered editions on CD of the first 8 Black Sabbath albums, the Ozzy Years. But look, there's a bonus DVD, and this is the Live at Music Loudon, which has been released unofficially by multiple. I can't get out of the sleeve, so I'm not going to pull it out and risk it. But the Live at Music Loudon has been released on multiple labels. But here's an official release, the official Black Sabbath black box, and it does have an official release of Blue Suede Shoes. So there is your fact for tonight. Jake, do you want to take it from here and tell us about your relationship with Ozzy and Sabbath?
Yeah. My dad was an Ozzy fan, Sabbath fan, more Ozzy than Sabbath. And he used to joke that I was named after his favorite Ozzy guitarist, Jake E. Lee. That's not true, but that's what he used to joke.
That's a good story. You should just keep telling that.
I do. And it would send my mom into cardiac arrest when you could just see her like boiling over it. So Ozzy was one of those bands where I don't remember a period of time where Ozzy wasn't a figure in my life. I know it's probably weird to you guys to hear that, but Ozzy was always there. And Mom hated Ozzy. He was devil worshipping filth. But when Mom was gone, Dad would put Ozzy on, you know? And the year this came out, he got this for me for Christmas, but he also got Off the Rails by Root, and they're such good reads.
That's a good read, Off the Rails.
And I really like both of these, but there's never been a point in my life where Ozzy wasn't there. And my dad's favorite Ozzy record's Bark at the Moon. Of course, Jake's his favorite Ozzy guitar player. And so Diary and Blizzard and the tribute album were quite regularly played. And then the first two Sabbath albums were regular played in the house too. But there's never been a point where Ozzy didn't factor into my life in some way, shape, or form. And the first concert I ever went to by myself was in 2007. It was Ozzy Osbourne, Rob Zombie, and In This Moment. My brother was on probation and he couldn't be left alone. So my dad couldn't go because my parents were divorced and he got custody of us. But my dad couldn't go, but it was very important to him that I go to this concert. So I remember we went, and this was, of course, you could buy them online, but it wasn't as easily accessible to buy tickets online back then. So you'd drive down to the venue, you would stand in line for hours to get these tickets. And it was just, I remember standing there with Dad to get these tickets that were the tickets. I was agonizing, just standing there and then going to the show. And you guys probably did this at some point in time. You made a CD with the set list of the concert.
I actually didn't, but that's really cool, Jake.
And so it was I Don't Want to Stop off of Black Rain, Crazy Train, Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, The Road to Nowhere, Not Going Away, I Don't Know, Lay Your World on Me, Fire in the Sky, Bark at the Moon, Here for You, I Don't Want to Change the World, and Encore, Mama, I'm Coming Home, and Paranoid. 14 songs. And that was what he played in 2007. And Rob Zombie, I was a big Rob Zombie fan since Rob Zombie's first solo album. So it was, a big deal that Rob Zombie was with him too. And then he had this band with
Maria Brink.
And they were unknown at the time. And Mike and I were talking about this earlier. He only got 4 songs from them. I got 7. I got almost this entire album live. And it was for a long time, that was like the best show I'd ever seen. It was.
We also didn't get Fire in the Sky. We did not get that song, which is one of my all-time favorite Ozzy songs. So that was a bummer that I realized that you got it and I didn't.
I know. And that's off of my favorite Ozzy album, but
we'll get there. We'll get there. I want to give the stage over to my good buddy Uncle Meat. He sent in a video, and it's going to go vertical because he doesn't know how to do this stuff properly. So you're still going to see our dumb faces. But here's Uncle Meat. Now, he's a very talented singer himself, and we have played a long time ago a cover tune that he did of Fairies Wear Boots back in like 1992. 1991, 92. And it's incredible. And I'm going to play it at the end of the show again. We haven't played it in years. But here's Uncle Meat talking about Ozzy Osbourne, the man. Well, I'll let him say it.
Hey, it's Uncle Meat here. Wanted to say a quick rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. The man had a lot to do with why I started singing at all in the first place. And, I know Mike has shown the video often of my band doing Fairies Wear Boots. It was a big thing for me, and it's a great memory. And I only got the chance to see Ozzy Osbourne live once. It was in 2016 or so. I saw Black Sabbath at the Air Canada Centre, and I remember having so much pride during Snowblind. During the bridge in there, the man and I can see, like that whole thing. I remember just, wow, he's hitting these notes and he sounds great. And I'm like cheering him like it was a sporting event. I'll never forget it. So, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. And I'd be remiss not to say rest in peace, Hulk Hogan and Chuck Mangione. Quite the week. But peace, everyone. Out.
And to add, Malcolm Jamal Warner from the Cosby Show was a talented bass player as well, and we lost him less than a week ago as well. So that's it's been a heck of a week, and I came into this really with no plan, so we're just winging it here. And since we're winging it, I think on this round I want to do a thing where we kind of show off maybe one of our favorite Ozzy albums or collectibles. So I have. From 2002, this is a reissue. This isn't an original run, but this is a McFarlane Ozzy, still in the original packaging. It's gotten a little yellowed over the years, as is prone to when exposed to any kind of sunlight. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes when you're an action figure collector. But this is a nice McFarlane. I am not a huge fan of the McFarlane style. I don't consider that an action figure. I consider that a statue. Because an action figure should be, posable and you can do different things with them. But the McFarlanes are known for their detail. You can see the crucifixes. You can see them hanging on actual little chains. He comes with some doves with their heads bitten off. This is a fun collectible. And bats, also bats. You can see the bats. And there's a backdrop. If you look on the back here, it kind of looks like stained glass windows. So that's a fun one that I got over 20 years ago. Never opened my Ozzy Osbourne McFarlane. Peter, did you have anything besides that Ozzy box that you have to show us?
Oh, look, maybe this round I'll talk about some albums that I think, personally to me, people should check out. So, to get the best of Ozzy. So obviously, Paranoid, that's the one of the benchmarks of heavy metal. Sabotage, I think Sabotage is one of the greatest hard rock albums ever, and that is the go-to place for me if I want to hear Ozzy at his very well done, Ashley. Save the day.
Nice one.
His vocals, I think they're at their stone cold peak. Hole in the Sky. The band was going through a lot of problems. Their manager was ripping them off and they were really angry. And Ozzy's got so much anger and spirit in his vocals. And I don't think they've ever been beaten in respect of Sabbath. So Sabotage is the album for me. My first Sabbath album that I purchased was actually this one. Not the box set, but Technical Ecstasy.
Cool.
And I fell in love and I was out of love of it because it's a bit of an outright, a bit experimental. I played it last night and the Steve Wilson remixes, I really dig it. I really groove it. It brings out a lot of the keyboards, a little bit of the bottom end, and it's a whole different listening experience. So you've got all the different mixes. It's got, live on tour in 1976. I'm not going to open it up because I'm going to be really clumsy, but all the box sets. Hopefully it's going to be some more Sabbath stuff coming out. You know what I mean?
Hope so.
I know Tony's doing the Born Again, but hopefully he gets back into the Ozzy original albums and put some stuff out. That would be really good. Let's talk Ozzy. Speak of the devil. Love it or hate it. Brad Gillis does his interpretation of Black Sabbath, a little bit hair metally. I like it. I prefer the Tony Iommi version, but it's certainly it's got a lot of fire in the belly. So Speak of the Devil, my first Ozzy album. I love this album, Ultimate Sin. I think that's great. I love it. I call it Hair Sabbath. It's like in the middle of hair metal. No Rest of the Wicked. A lot of people like this one. This was Zach. Comes into the band. Love that album cover too. There you go. Ozzy and Randy tribute. if you want to hear Randy Rhoads at his absolute peak, that's the album. It's the live album, and I was playing that last night, and it absolutely just bubbles along. It pops out. Randy, what a guitarist! And look, there's got to be some more in the vault. I know Bob's got it, but there is all this contractual sort of stuff going. Hopefully, clear heads will prevail, and a lot of this Randy Rhoads live material will see the light of the day, because at the end of the day, who's getting ripped off? We are. We're not listening to it. So as fans, I'd like to hear more Randy, but that's a great album. Tribute.
Hey, Peter, do you remember, I think it's inside the liner notes where it says something like, these are the only recordings of me and Randy live. I think it said that inside the original release, and it's like, well, now we know that's not true because they put out another one on the Diary Deluxe.
Yeah, and another thing, on side 4, where it's Goodbye to Romance and No Bone Movies, it's actually Bob Daisley on bass and Lee Kerslake on drums, but there's no credits whatsoever. So, which is very disappointing. And just to move it along, this is probably my favorite later period Ozzy album. I did a show and said this is the last great Ozzy album, No More Tears.
Yep.
And I think this guy here can be responsible because he wrote about 3 or 4 songs which are absolutely killer. And I think Ozzy got his mojo back on this album. And basically through grunge and alternative rock, he flourished, through the Ozfest, and that album helped it along. And my last one, I raved about this album, and I was probably a little bit alone on this, but Mike, we were exchanging messages. You like this album as well. I think Patient number 9 is a great way to finish the career. At the time when I heard it, I thought, wow, a lot of the lyrics are it's like he's saying goodbye, and he actually was. So to me, I put that up with David Bowie, Black Star, as saying goodbye to his fans. It's killer. It's 100 guest stars. You got Jeff Beck, you got Eric Clapton, you got Tony Iommi. Probably the Tony Iommi songs are my favorite. The riffage is just fantastic. Are his vocals a bit AI? Maybe. I forgive it. But the songs, the arrangements, it's an Andrew Watt production, what side of the ledger you sit on that one. But I think it's great. Patient number 9. Sorry about that, Mike. A bit unwieldy, but that's all the ones I think folks should, zero in. And of course, the first 2 Ozzy albums, Diary of a Madman, etc.
Well, you mentioned some of my favorite albums in that batch, so that saves me from bringing them up later. I'll spotlight a different bunch of albums when it comes around to my turn. But Ash, you're up next. Do you have anything you want to show or any props you want me to find for you?
Well, I think Peter Kerr really stole a lot of my thunder, actually, to be perfectly honest. That I'm sort of agreeing with him too, that I found that after No More Tears, I really struggled with a lot of some of his solo stuff. After that, I've certainly got them all, and there's some good tracks on there, and there's some not so good tracks on there. But for me personally, I'm always a Sabbath man. I can't stress enough. I love Sabbath to death. They're one of my introductory bands, as well as other hard rock acts along the way. But certainly, my introduction to heavy metal was definitely through Sabbath. I've picked up a couple of stuff I've managed to dig out. My favourite Sabbath album, of course, is the very first one. I love this album. I really do. It's experimental. It's got a bit of a jammy side on the back, and they do a couple of covers on the album as well. I'm a big fan of Sleeping Village and Warning. I love the way it stretches out, and there's like jam sessions in the middle of it. And I love Geezer's bass playing on it too. It's really good. Really goodness. When you hear the title track coming out in 1970, that would have been a lot. Would have been some scary people out there that heard that for the very first time, I must admit. But yeah, that's definitely my favourite. And of course, my second favourite, of course, as Peter's mentioned, is Sabotage. And this is the if I can get it out, this is the pictured CD, which they released back in the late 80s as well. I've still got that.
Ash, I've never seen that before. I've never seen one of those before. That's nice. Really nice.
The first 5 come out like it as well. A couple of them had bonus track every now and again. The only downside of them, though, I thought the production on them wasn't very good on them. But they are a bit collectible these days and all as well. So, but one of my favourite tracks, and this is a track called Thrill of It All. That is fantastic. And I love the way that Ozzy gets his vocal range and that, and it's really good. Also, I'm a big fan of Megalomania as well. That's very good as well. One of my favourites. And am I going and saying, yeah, it was quite good. It was released here as a single as well, actually, in Australia. And I don't mind that, but that would be my second favourite. But really, back in the Sabbath days, you can't really go wrong with the first five. The first five are benchmarked. You can pick any one of them, and you certainly will be getting your value for money.
Absolutely.
Peter Kerr had the Technical Ecstasy album up there. Probably my least favourite of the catalogue. I'm sort of a Never Say Die fan. I think that's very underrated.
Oh, I love that album.
I didn't mind the way they did something different on there. Some of those tracks even could have been on an Ozzy album.
Oh yeah, honest. Yeah, I think so.
Another little, I've managed to dig this one out too. I've also got the Paranoid EP.
Wow.
It's an Australian release. I don't think it's on the Swell label. I'm not too sure. I haven't played it in quite a while. Oh, yes, it is. Look at that.
That's nice.
$1 whole. I got that for many years ago. Many years ago. I managed to find that when I was going through some stuff. And you got Paranoid, Black Sabbath, Tomorrow's Dream, and Changes on it. That's quite hard to find here in Australia. Not sure if Peter Kerr has that. I don't know. No. But that's quite good. And I've showed this off before on the show as well. And that's Black Sabbath Live in Louisiana 70. And the reason I bought this for is it has a live version of Sleeping Village on there, which goes for nearly half an hour.
Wow.
Hearing that for the first time, that was different. Must admit, probably have to be pretty out of it there. But that's a great album actually. That one. That's a radio show as well. I picked that up off I think I got it off of Amazon. I think I got it off of. So if you certainly see that around, that's definitely worth a bit. I've got this box set as well.
I'm glad you're showing that. I'm going to need you to show that off a little bit later on.
Yeah, this is my wife's actually, if you can believe it. And this is basically all her albums put together as like a box set, but acknowledging Ozzy Osbourne at the same time.
Keep that handy. I'm going to need you to show it off again later.
Sure, will do. And of course, my favourite Ozzy album is Diary of a Madman.
Let's zoom in on that one more time because that's really cool. I'm going to show that to Mr. Durling and see if he has anything to say. That's cool. Really nice collection, Ash. Really nice.
That's my favourite Ozzy album, and again, from Blizzard of Oz all the way up to No More Tears, you can't go wrong. You could not go wrong with any of them. Even some of the live albums he done, like Just Say Ozzy, is a great album as well. I don't know, sure if any of you got that there. That's quite good as well. That's only an EP, but that's very good. That goes from I enjoy that album a lot. Tribute, you can't, again, that's timeless. I used to have a bootleg with record back in the day called Bat's Head Soup, and it was a live show which had Randy Rhoads. It was a radio show, and I can't remember the date of it, but that was really good quality as well. So obviously there's definitely more out there. There definitely is more out there of.
And we also have better technology today to sort of restore these tapes. And I think we also have a much more tolerant audience to a live bootleg sounding album compared to what was possible in 1987 when the tribute album was released. Back then, if they'd released a bootleg sounding album, people would have said, "Oh, this is garbage." But today, I think people have a more understanding of the special qualities of those recordings.
Absolutely. But certainly was a good quality album, probably about a 7 out of 10 quality wise. I mean, I've had some shockers over the years with my bootleg collection. I've had some absolute shockers. Some of them record like they record out in the car park. So, but this was a good one. And that'll probably wrap me up there because that's all the collectibles I can manage to dig out. Sorry for
You've
that.
got an awesome collection, Ash. So, bravo.
Thank you.
Jake, I know you have to get going to work pretty soon. Do you have anything you want to share with us before you go?
I have a question for Peter and Ash.
Yes.
If I say my favorite Ozzy era is the Randy era, what do you think of?
All the way.
What do you think of?
I think of Bob Daisley.
Okay.
I think of Bob.
Ozzy had two Randys.
I see what you're getting at.
But he has the phenomenal Randy Castillo on drums. And my favorite Ozzy era is the Randy Castillo era. I absolutely love that man's drumming. Ultimate Sin is where he first appeared with Ozzy. And I absolutely love this record. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Randy was awesome. And this is my favorite Ozzy record. My brother got this for me before he shipped off to Afghanistan. And I'm pretty sure I blasted this through my headphones so much I have hearing loss in some of my ears. Breaking All the Rules, Tattooed Dancer, Devil's Daughter. I think you guys got to go listen to these. If you're going to listen to something you don't always listen to, check out some of the songs on this album. If you listen to anything I pull up, please give this a listen. But then he was also on Just Say Ozzy.
Yes.
A phenomenal EP. No More Tears. As Ash mentioned, 3 or 4 songs written by Lemmy, including the phenomenal Hellraiser. And Just Say Ozzy. Or not Just Say Ozzy, sorry. Live and Loud. Live and Loud, which is a great live album set. And that's my favorite Ozzy era. But I also have a special place in my heart for this album. It's not my favorite, but I did see that tour. And Black Rain does have, the tour edition and the original cardboard sleeve.
That was quite controversial when it came out. A lot of people were like, that's the cover? That's it? This didn't come out until later.
No, but that's the shirt, the tour shirt that I had. And then I really do love this album with Gus G on guitars.
Okay, one moment. We got to get my vinyl out.
Scream. The bass on here is great. Do I think it stands up to his earlier stuff? I don't know, but I really have a great time with this. I have so many good memories associated when this came out and blasting it. And I had a sorry about my language, an 89 Buick Regal. And you'd hook the tape deck in to your portable CD player on the other end, and you would blast it through there. Oh, I loved it. Got a lot of play. And then this is another set, and it's probably pricey, extremely pricey now, so probably wait until the market dies down, because I think it's been out of print for a while. But the Prince of Darkness box set. And it's 4 discs, some unreleased tracks, and it's worth tracking down, I think. But not right now. I bet this thing is going for a pretty penny. And I was fortunate enough to see Ozzy in concert on multiple occasions. I've met some great people at Ozzy concerts. The last time I saw Ozzy, he had Pop Evil opening for him, and I've been a big Pop Evil fan since they've been coming up here 15, almost 20 years ago now. And I have a Pop Evil back tattoo. And at the end of the show, Matt, their bass player, came over, ran over to me, told me to turn around. He cut my shirt open, and he signed my Pop Evil back tattoo at a show that they were opening for Ozzy. And then they gave me a free Pop Evil shirt because he ruined my my shirt. But I have so many, that happened because of, Ozzy. It was a moment associated. Ozzy brought people together and he brought out greatness. And I think that's what I like to remember most about Ozzy is the camaraderie, the greatness, the fellowship that he brought out in people.
So see that brings up something that I mentioned in my blurb that I wrote when Ozzy passed, which is that Ozzy was a great facilitator of bringing talent together. And we've already mentioned so many of them, from Jake E. Lee to Zakk Wylde to Randy Castillo, Randy Rhoads, Bob Daisley, all these guys. Not that Bob Daisley didn't have a career, but he brought these guys together and they gelled. The Daisley, Randy Rhoads, Ozzy Osbourne era of songwriting is magical. Well said, Jake. And thanks for joining us. Now, don't you be late for work. Don't you let me. You take care, buddy, and catch the rest of the show when you get back.
Peace, guys. Thank you. It's been fun.
Take care. Thanks.
Thank you, Jake.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I would like to share a couple of stories about a couple of special albums. My first exposure to Ozzy Osbourne was via the music video. Do you remember he did that live music video from the Bark at the Moon tour? It was available on a VHS, and somebody had dubbed for me the music video for Paranoid. And I think that might have been the very first Ozzy that I ever heard. I thought Paranoid was just like a solo song of his. And after that, I made a trade with the same neighbor. He was a Kiss fan, huge Kiss fan. And he needed only a couple albums to complete his collection. And one of them was Hotter Than Hell. And I had acquired Hotter Than Hell that night in another trade for an Atari video game, Atari 2600 video game for Superman, which wasn't even mine. It was my sister's cartridge. And I traded it for this Kiss album. I traded it for Hotter Than Hell and Alive. And immediately I called my neighbor and I said, "Do you need Hotter Than Hell?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" And I'm like, "I have it. I'm coming over." We negotiated. And out of this trade for Hotter Than Hell, I got an Iron Maiden Flight of Icarus 12-inch single, an Abbott and Costello Who's on First record that I gifted to my dad for Christmas that year, a Walkman, and Paranoid on cassette. So Paranoid was my first Sabbath album, and I remember it was scary, it was spooky, it was weird. Songs like Hand of Doom. And the lyrics are freaking out there, man. Like they're talking about nuclear holocaust and all this other stuff. And I'm a kid in the 8th grade, I think. Hey, thank you. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, Paranoid was first. Randy Rhoads Tribute came later on. I had Bark at the Moon, but Bark at the Moon's kind of a dark album and it didn't open up to me until much later on. Now I have a tremendous amount of love and nostalgia for Bark at the Moon, but it didn't open up to me right away. The Randy Rhoads Tribute is the one that opened up right away. And incidentally, early CD pressings of this are missing the intro and stage chatter and everything else. So if you're getting it on CD, get this version or get the original vinyl, the double vinyl. Peter, does this kind of bug you as far as titles go? Is the album called Tribute by Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads, or is the album called Randy Rhoads Tribute by Ozzy Osbourne? This always caused filing problems back in the day. I'm sure this drives Martin Popoff nuts.
Yeah, it probably does. I've always known it as Tribute.
Yeah, but, we used to call it the Tribute album because we knew it was a tribute to Randy. But that video for Crazy Train, the black and white one with the guitar going down the tracks and Ozzy with the crazy spiky hair, this is where my love of Ozzy began. I was a teenager in high school, just exploring music, not really a lot of money, usually recording cassettes off of friends. But I have the greatest grandmother in the world, and I wanted to share a story about Blizzard of Oz. Now, this is something that aired back in January with John Clauser. We did actually an episode about our grandmothers and music. So this is an excerpt, and this is the story of how I got Blizzard of Oz. I have all these warm stories about her. And when it comes to music, it was always funny because she would give me gifts periodically, just for no reason. I would just be given an album. The Blizzard of Oz. She gave me the Blizzard of Oz. I can't even imagine. I'm pretty sure she didn't pick that. I'm pretty sure that was somebody else that picked it probably my sister who would have been shopping with her that day. But it's like, can you imagine my grandmother picking Ozzy Osbourne, The Blizzard of Oz, and giving it to me? It was like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem too likely, but that's how I got some of these albums.
Yeah.
Because grandma would just buy me a random gift one day for no reason. Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, Ultimate Sin, Just Say Ozzy. Those were the next ones that I got. But there was one, guys, and I know you guys remember this. Sorry. This one needs to be reissued on CD because it is out of print. So available on vinyl and cassette. And it has an exclusive Ozzy song with Randy called You Said It All. And if it isn't one of the best Ozzy songs of the Randy era. Now, I know you can get it digitally on a remastered edition of Blizzard that was available for download on iTunes. But, we're physical product people here on Grab Stack of Rock. And this is really special. Look at that. The 500 series special low price. I've seen this with lots of different versions and titles. Sometimes it's called the Mr. Crowley EP. I've seen it on a picture disc with different cover art. Like, new. But here's the track list. Mr. Crowley Live, You Said It All, previously unreleased, and Suicide Solution. How live these are, I don't know. No pun intended. But you can see the details there. 1980 during the first Blizzard of Oz UK tour. And then it advertises that you can get the studio tracks on Blizzard. I had this on cassette and gave it away years and years and years ago. But vinyl to me is the more permanent format, I guess I would say. You can't erase a vinyl by accidentally leaving it near a powerful speaker or magnet. So, that's a nice batch of Ozzy collectibles. I'm not done with my Ozzy collectibles yet, but let's throw it back to Peter. And what do you want to say? I guess we'll do one more round.
Yeah, I'll go back to this album, how much I love it. And I think Randy Rhoads, his guitar playing, it's all very classical because there's one song that I was playing last night, which is D, where he's playing that classical guitar. And I think what Randy Rhoads did to the masses and through metal was bring classical music to the masses, with those arpeggios. And frankly, a lot of guitarists after Randy were copying that. And it's just so influential. And that album just pops out of the speakers. It's just such a wonderful live album. And look, I'll say it again. I'm sure that there's a ton of stuff in the vaults. Hopefully, everyone gets to sort out the contractual, the business side of it. And, let the audience, let the fans hear this stuff. Like what you were saying earlier, Mike, about AI, can get it cleaned up and make it, sort of tip-top shape, and, the fans can enjoy all the various lineups of Ozzy and what's in the vault. There must be a ton of stuff out there, I've even read stories where concerts were actually filmed. Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, the Speak of the Devil album, which... Have we even seen that tonight yet? I don't think we have.
I did. I put it up.
We did. Okay. Yeah. That's an interesting one. It's all Sabbath.
Yeah. So it's an interesting...
When they done Speak of the Devil, were they warm-up shows for him to get back into? Because apparently they did about 4 of them. There's about 4 shows of that album. And apparently they picked the best tracks out of all of them, because apparently some of them weren't the best.
Well, I heard he's dubbed his voice, because I've actually heard the bootlegs and his voice isn't too flash. So he actually had to go into the studio and basically just sing it over it.
Peter, if you asked me, does his voice sound double tracked on this album? To me, it sounds double tracked through the whole thing.
A little bit, but there is definitely studio trickery. But I'll forgive it because it sounds wonderful. I've got to put a shout out to another guitarist who doesn't get spoken about, and a little story here. Bernie Tormé, the great Bernie Tormé that played in Gillan, the Gillan band. So when Randy died, they had to do contractually an American tour. They couldn't get out of it. Otherwise, there would have been huge penalties, insurance, etc., etc. So Ozzy rang Bernie Tormé. He had left the Gillan band, and Bernie, doesn't sound like Randy Rhoads. He's a completely different style of guitarist. He plays like a Hendrix style. He's very ad hoc. He's a little bit punky. He took the task. He literally had to learn the tabs on the plane and learn the set in a couple of days. And I've never, basically I've heard some of the stuff. I'd love to hear a whole concert be released. But he played, I think, 30 concerts on that tour. And at the end of it, he just didn't feel comfortable because people, I had a conversation with John McCoy and I said, did Bernie talk about his time with Ozzy? And Bernie said, look, people were pointing at me and calling out Randy, and I felt kind of uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really his scene. He just didn't fit in. But to learn a set within a couple of days and read the tabs on literally the plane flight between London and America and just straight into the concert, that's some learning curve.
Cool.
And I don't believe that there's any official releases of any Bernie Tormé material with Ozzy, if I'm not mistaken. That would be a nice thing to have on an official release. I hope Jack Osbourne is involved with any reissues that happen, because I believe that he's sort of a super fan of his dad. So I would love to see Jack be involved with stuff like that. But of course, everybody's mourning now and grieving, so we can't really expect too much. Thank you, Metal Roger. The beard's got to come off soon because I don't want to look like Santa Mike. Ash, I'm gonna need you to hold up your box set, but before we do that, do you have any last things you want to say about Oz?
I only saw Ozzy once, and that was with Sabbath back in 2013 when they came back on their 30, when they toured Australia again. And that was probably the only time I saw Ozzy was then. Apart from that, everything else was on a DVD and old concert footage. Yes. What do you think of that album, guys? How do you rate that album?
It's very contrived, but with that in mind, I don't mind it. I mean, there's freaking thunder and lightning on this album to evoke Black Sabbath. There are songs here that are designed to evoke previous songs. Flat out, I'm saying it.
Very much so.
But I don't mind it, and I think Brad Wilk, I think is his name. I think he was a fine choice to drum on it, given that there was issues that they didn't want to work with Bill. That's how I feel.
I think it's a terrible album. Shocking. No, I really do. I think it's at the bottom of the bottom. It's a disgrace that they didn't have Bill Ward. They could have got him on the project, even in the studio, because there's all this health problem. And can I say, when I saw the final concert and Bill Behind the Skins, even though he didn't do everything totally right, it was still, you still heard a little bit of the Bill Ward groove, little fills here and there. He could have maybe not done the tour. He could have played on that album, and that's a big miss. But, basically Rick Rubin went to the band and he went to Tony Iommi and he said, I want you guys to recreate the 1970 Black Sabbath album. And he was just lying on the couch, didn't do too much, and he was fluffing about. And I just think the songs meander. They're kind of boring. And I know they're trying to recreate that early 70s Sabbath sound, but I think it fails miserably. It would have been better if the four of them got together and worked something organically without referencing something from 1969 or 1970. No, I think it's right at the bottom. It was very, very disappointing. Sorry.
In Peter's defense, he's not wrong about any of that. I still do like the album, and I still will defend it. I like the riffs. He's right that it's meandering, though. It's definitely meandering. It's not very tight. And I freaking hate Rick Rubin. You're right. Lying down on the couch. That's how he doesn't do anything. He lies down on the couch and listens and says, yeah, I don't know.
I think he used to be good. We covered a show when he did Rain and Blood. I think in the 80s, he was energized. And he was a real interventionist type of producer. But I think as he got on, I think he just dined on his reputation and got a little bit lazy. But just going back to the length of, this is a Peter Kerr theory about albums. I lose patience when it goes over 40 minutes. How long does that 13 go on for?
Yeah.
It's 70 minutes, isn't it? It's way too long.
It's way too long.
And not only that, but if you have the box set that I have, there's 4 bonus tracks.
Yeah.
Now, the bonus tracks, there's actually 2 there that are really good. One called Naivety in Black. That's freaking amazing. It is it's the fastest song on the album. And I don't know why sometimes these things are left to bonus tracks, but like if you can think of the Black Sabbath song with Dio called Time Machine, that speed, that kind of riff, that's Naivety in Black. And I think it should have been on the main album, but hey, nobody asked me.
I actually like those songs. Don't ask me because I've got a attack of the olds. Remember when they did the reunion album and they did a couple of the 4 of them went into the studio and did a couple of studio songs? I actually like those songs. That was an indication that they could have done something around that time that was kind of interesting. I forget what the songs were called, but
what bugged me about those 2 songs? There were two studio tracks on the reunion album, and what bugged me about them is that they secretly used a drum machine instead of Bill.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I didn't like them, Peter. I didn't like those tracks because I could not shake the thought that it just sounded like solo Ozzy to me.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yeah, we don't have to agree. In fact, we frequently don't. Sorry, Ash, do you want to say anything else?
Okay. I had the same problem with Patient Number 9, his last album too, where was talking about length of it. To me, that's a very long album as well. That's over 60 minutes. And I thought, that one there. That's a very long album as well.
Yeah, I actually forgive it because the songs are so damn good. I agree with you, Ashley. It's a very long album, and I've got the record version. It's over 2 discs. Okay. And there's like 3 or 4 songs on each side, but I forgive it because the songs are so good. You kind of let it go. But 13, it just dragged.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deny that.
Also with Patient Number 9 is that I don't know if it's just me, but I thought his vocals were a bit overproduced. It didn't sound like Ozzy as we know it. And I found that even with Ordinary Man a little bit, which is an album that I actually don't mind. I don't mind that album, actually. That's quite good. I actually enjoyed that one. And I thought his vocal range was a little bit different than what I was used to.
I've got a theory on this. And look, I said that earlier. It's got AI, but I forgive it. I think as you've got Parkinson's, you lose your vocal muscle. And I even noticed when I saw Black Sabbath in the final tour of Australia, he was a bit pitchy. And I think they just had to do some AI control. And it all comes back to that Cher song, Believe. You know, that song everyone hates, but it was a game changer in studio trickery where you could actually auto-tune and get vocals right. And I think with Ozzy and his Parkinson, he did have pitch issues, and Andrew Watt simply had to do that. So the song is melodic and he's just basically singing in key. So I think that was the trade-off.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think you do have to forgive the use of it. I wouldn't necessarily forgive it for anybody else. Like if Paul Stanley put out a Kiss album with a bunch of AI vocals, I'd be pissed off. But for Ozzy, I'm going to give it a pass.
Well, the Rolling Stones, Hackney Diamonds was using that. And I think Mick still sounds in key. So I think it might be an Andrew Watt type thing, Mike. What do you think?
I'm not a fan of Andrew Watt. We've talked about this behind the scenes. I find his production to be very processed, very clinical, very corporate.
But it's the sound of now.
Yeah.
He's the kingpin. Yeah, he's the kingpin.
Exactly. Now, and I mentioned to you also behind the scenes, California Breed, which is where Andrew Watt first became on the forefront. Glenn Hughes, I guess, would you say he discovered him? Maybe you'd say Glenn Hughes discovered him, and he was in sort of the successor band to Black Country Communion called California Breed. And then all of a sudden, then he's producing Post Malone, I guess it was. And we'll go on from there.
Yeah.
But
his career has skyrocketed. I think he had a falling out with Glenn.
Yes, he
Mike.
did.
I've read a few. I had a few interviews, and maybe a little bit of a scoop here. I'm trying to organise an interview with Glenn. I might throw that in.
Wow.
Nice. And
Wow.
incidentally, once again, check out Peter Kerr's Rock Daydream Nation for Bob Daisley, John Sinclair. You mentioned John McCoy from Gillan and Mammoth. He's got a ton of great interviews. And also, Ash, subscribe to his channel too, because he's got great videos, live concert stuff, and music videos. Tons of stuff that I've never seen before. Sorry, Ash, we keep cutting you off.
That's all right. That's fine. That's fine. No problem at all. I think I've said what I have to say anyway. So we'll head back to you in your collection.
Okay, so I got a couple more stories, and then I want to show off the last few Ozzy rarities in my collection. Ash, I need you to hold up the Ozzy Osbourne Years box set.
Yep, just a sec.
So this came out around, I don't know, in my memory, around 1991, and it's a very low-budget box set. There's no liner notes, no nothing. It's basically songs from the first album to Sabotage with all the instrumentals removed. So it's a condensed version of the first 6 Sabbath albums. It was an import, so this wasn't available in Canada, but it has one track on it that was unavailable on this continent, basically, which was Evil Woman. The first Black Sabbath album was released in 2 different formats. One with Warning and one with Evil Woman. If I'm not mistaken, those were the 2 songs. One was exclusive to one version. Evil Woman was exclusive to the European version. So Evil Woman was impossible to get. My buddy Peter, though, he was an electrician, and he took frequent visits down to the United States, and he came home with the Ozzy Osbourne Years box set. And I flipped out because I read the track listing like, Evil Woman. So for an entire summer, that Ozzy Osbourne Years box set was in our deck in the car. We made frequent road trips up to the cottage, Peter and I, going way too fast, in our early 20s, stupid fast, blasting those Sabotage songs. And let me tell you, The Writ, Megalomania, Thrill of It All, Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe. I was blown away. I was like, this is heavy metal. This isn't just heavy metal, but this is heavy metal that could go big right now in 1991, 92. Like Soundgarden's on the charts with these kind of chugging riffs. Like Thrill of It All has a good chugging riff, and so does Hole in the Sky. You know, I'm going hoarse here trying to express myself. But my point is, I was blown away. Blown away. So Peter and I, these 2 young idiots in this Pontiac Fiero that's as light as a piece of paper, flying down the highway, passing cars left, right, and center, blasting Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which, by the way, that's got to be Ozzy's highest notes that he's ever hit in his Black Sabbath career. And I remember distinctly that we queued up Sabbath Bloody Sabbath anytime we passed a car, so that Ozzy was shouting, "You bastards," out the window as we blasted. We were idiots, but that was something we did. As we're passing cars flying down the highway, we queued up Sabbath Bloody Sabbath so that Ozzy said, "You bastards," at every car we passed. That's a confession. I really grew my Sabbath collection in the 90s. I was really becoming obsessed with kind of Sabbath and Purple at the same time, and these albums were hard to get. And I remember Technical Ecstasy. I'm sure a lot of these albums were only available on import in Canada in the 90s. And I was working at the used CD store that I've often talked about, The Beat Goes On. And I was in my first year in retail buying and selling used CDs. And this guy came in with some cassettes. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, sir. We don't buy cassettes. We only buy CDs." It's like, "Oh man, you sure there's nothing here you want?" And he had Technical Ecstasy on cassette. And I'm like, "Well, I can't buy that for inventory, but I can buy it myself." And I might have offered him $2 for it. I might have offered him $5 for it. I can't remember, but that's how I got Technical Ecstasy on cassette. And I remember I'd never heard any of these songs before, not one of them. And I liked it. This is a moody album in spots. Songs like "You Won't Change Me." Peter was dead on when he was talking about Ozzy being melodic and perfectly pitched. This is one of the most melodic. I think this and Never Say Die are the 2 most melodic Black Sabbath albums. And I loved it right away. And I was like, I'd heard this album had a bad reputation, that it wasn't popular among Sabbath fans. And I was like, why? This sounds like classic Sabbath to me. It's got maybe a little bit more keyboard, but not ridiculous. It's not like Hair Sabbath. And, you know, my Sabbath collection just grew and grew and grew. And I was collecting all the eras as well. But the Ozzy stuff was relatively, the first 6 were relatively easy to get on Warner. And eventually I got them all. And I'll just show off a few more rarities before we go. I think Peter mentioned that you were jealous of, was it this one? This is Believer Live. So that's a good one. This is, I think, the only place you can get Believer, these versions. It says recorded live on the Blizzard of Oz tour, and Goodbye to Romance is 2010 guitar and vocal mix. So I think those might be, or at least the B-side might be exclusive to this. And you can see I was, again, kind of stupid. That's a lot of money. This may be the one that Peter said he wanted.
Yes, I do.
This one I only paid $12 for, so that's not so bad. This one has on it Flying High Again and I Don't Know Live. And I think this is an exclusive live version of I Don't Know. I think the one on the 2002 remastered Blizzard, I think that has re-recorded bass and drums. So I think this is the only version without the re-recorded bass and drums. I haven't listened to it in ages, but I did an A/B test a long, long time ago. And when I was reading my notes, I said that you can really tell the difference in Bob Daisley's bass, that you can hear he's playing something way different on this version than the one on the CD version.
Didn't that come out as a 12-inch as well? Did that come out as a 12-inch as well?
I don't know. Pun not intended. I don't know. Probably. And that's also a reissue. So there's an original vinyl issue of that as well, not just the record store day. Now, here's a fun fact is that Ozzy actually has quite a few cool B-sides, some of which have Jakey Lee, some of which have Randy. But there was a song called One Up the B-side, and it's the B-side to Bark at the Moon. And there you go. And it also says Slow Down is an exclusive release. Now, it was on my version of Bark at the Moon, but I guess it wasn't on all versions of Bark at the Moon. But that's a nice one. There was another B-side called Spiders in the Night from the Bark at the Moon era. I think that was the B-side to So Tired. And there was another one with Randy called You Looking at Me, Looking at You. So, you know, there are other tracks out there that aren't on the albums that these guys, they need to get on it and release comprehensive, complete box sets. Now, here's an oddity. Here's an oddity. The Ultimate Sin Live EP. You guys remember back in 1986, he did that Ultimate Ozzy live home video with Jakey? So this is supposedly 3 live songs from the Ultimate Ozzy. It's not. These are the studio tracks. Somebody screwed up. It says right here, limited picture edition from the live video shoot, Kansas City, 1986. So somebody screwed up. And these are the studio tracks on this picture disc. Fortunately, that Prince of Darkness box set that Jake showed off earlier in the show, that has the 3 live tracks that were supposed to be on this. But as we're drawing this to a close, we're seeing there's lots of stuff that's in the vaults. We know they have in the vaults, such as the Kansas City show. I mentioned that Bark at the Moon tour home video that I had a track recorded off a buddy. I know it exists. I'm pretty sure that he recorded a lot more stuff on the No More Tears tour than we know about, you know? And that's a home video, the Live and Loud. That's a home video that could do for a whole re-edit. It was very 90s in edit, with a lot of black and white cuts and stuff that was out of sequence, and very annoying live home video. The album, totally different story, but maybe somebody that cares about the music, cares about Ozzy's legacy, can go in there and do some of these albums some justice with some really good reissues. I'm pretty happy with the way that the Sabbath reissues have been going. There's been some great stuff coming out from the Sabbath camp. So maybe we can hope that there's somebody at the wheel, because we know it's coming. We know all this stuff is coming. It's inevitable. It's a legacy. It's the way things go. And the first thing that is going to come is going to be the final show. And I look forward to buying that. I'm sure it'll be out by Christmas. The last thing I want to say is Mama, I'm Coming Home, that live version from that show where Ozzy's voice was cracking and raw. At first I was like, oh, this is awful. That was my first impression, only my first impression. And I watched it again, and it started to get me here. And I could see how hard Ozzy was pushing and how hard he was trying. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. And I thought to myself, even though this is the most imperfect version of this song I've ever heard, it's one of my favorite versions of this song I've ever heard, because this is maybe the most sincere version that Ozzy's ever sung in his whole life. The last time he ever sang Mama, I'm Coming Home. And we all know he loves that song. Him and Lemmy worked on that one, I think. I'm not sure. It might have been Daisley. I should stop talking when I don't know what I'm talking about. Gentlemen, this has been a great night. I really thank you for joining me for this Memories of Oz show. I don't think I have anything left I need to show off in my collection. Peter, anything you want to talk about going on Rock Daydream Nation that you can spill the beans on?
Yeah, just check out the show that I did with the parish with Rock. It's called No Rest for the Ultimate Sin. So basically the day after the last concert, we did a show together doing an album battle between the Ultimate Sin and No Rest for the Wicked. And then Ozzy passed. So it's come out as a tribute to Ozzy, and check it out. It's on YouTube right now. A lot of fun.
Excellent. Ash, I know you're always uploading stuff. You're rocking and rolling?
Yes. I'm taking a bit of a break from my channel at the moment because I've got the YouTube police after me. So I'm sort of holding back a little bit at the moment. So I don't want to lose my channel, as they say. So I'm just holding back on it. But I've got a couple of questions for Peter Kerr up there. Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. How did you find them difficult to find back in the day?
No. I saw a lot more of Technical Ecstasy than Never Say Die. But yeah, not really. No.
Okay, over here in Adelaide, I found them very hard to find for some particular reason. The first five up to Sabotage you saw them everywhere. And it wasn't until many years later that I actually saw LP copies of Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy. I don't know why, but I got those albums very much later in the game because I just couldn't find them. Didn't know where I could get them. We had that a lot. And also, when they toured Australia, when Sabbath toured Australia in '74, a lot of those shows got recorded.
Yeah.
I had a cassette version of the Sydney show and the Melbourne show back in the day, and they weren't the best quality, but they certainly were decent just for the time that they were touring on it. So yeah, a lot of those shows got recorded as well in Australia. So
yeah,
there you go.
My suggestion to folks, if they want to get bootlegs, see if it says FM radio. If it says FM radio on the record or the CD, that usually means it's kind of decent quality. That's my tip when I go record hunting. And it usually 9 out of 10 times it's usually okay. So if it's an FM simulcast or on FM, go for it.
And as Ash mentioned earlier, some of those radio broadcast CDs, you can buy them on Amazon. So definitely check that out. And I've seen them in Walmarts. So I'm going to actually look for that one that Ash mentioned earlier. As for me, we are in the deep with 50 Years of Iron Maiden, and we'll be back next week with, I think it's Best of the Beast next week. I'm losing track, folks, but we will be back with 50 Years of Iron Maiden. That's a promise. And we will be back with these two gentlemen because as I said, we had to supplant the new arrivals, the new musical arrival show that Ash wanted to do with us. So we're going to do that at the next break between 50 Years of Iron Maiden. We'll get Peter back on. And who knows, you might see me on his channel again too one day. You never know. Hinted. Let's work together. I love working with Peter Kerr. He always does quality stuff. So please subscribe to this guy's channel and this guy's channel. We heard from Uncle Meat early in the show, and as I mentioned, he is a talented singer, and we have a video of him doing Fairies Wear Boots. So this is where we get demonetized, but it's worth it because this is a great video. So gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing what you've got coming up next, and we will talk in the future. This is Heavy Cutting with Fairies Wear Boots from about, let's say 1991. Take care, everyone. Uncle Meat on lead vocals.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao.